Let's be friends.
Have you not?
Here we go.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Ambassador Wing. I am, of course, your host, the Ambassador, and I've got my good friend over here, Mr. Ace Mowick, and we are back with episode 3 of the Tarantino podcast. And today we are bringing you our rewind on one of Quentin Tarantino's lesser-known films, but by no means a bad film by any degree, Jackie Brown. And if this is your first visit to the Ambassador Wing, welcome. Hope you all enjoy the review. And as always, with all the usual stuff that all us content creators usually do, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And of course, after you're done watching this, if you have anything you want to add, comments are down there. Use it. So, but Jackie Brown, this is one, like I mentioned, this is one of Tarantino's lesser known films, but I have only seen it twice, and I have to admit, the second time around, it really impressed me. I mean, you see a lot of early moves that Tarantino, a lot of early motifs that he uses, camera work and so on, story elements and what have you, that will pop up later in some of his other movies. But this movie, it was enjoyable. Had some really interesting characters, had some great acting, great cast, the whole thing. Ace, just your initial thoughts on Jackie Brown. What did you think?
Well, not too dissimilar from yours. I couldn't have seen it probably more than once around the first time I saw Pulp Fiction. I'd fresh out of high school, and it was the recent rewatch where I was able to get it because I basically forgot about the movie up until now. So definitely one of the lesser knowns of Tarantino, and I would say kind of underrated. I think what probably makes it a little underappreciated is probably how it's a little bit longer than most of his movies. It's clocks in just over 2.5 hours, so that could be a factor.
Mm-hmm.
But still a great
Yeah.
movie, and with a great soundtrack, as all Tarantino flicks.
Yes, definitely. The Delphonics, amongst numerous others. And this movie, just to kind of kick things off, it is, I would say, an homage, a Tarantino homage to the old exploitation movies of the 1950s, even the 1960s, the black exploitation films of that period, but done with a little more flair, some better writing, especially. Obviously, a lot more profanity, but of course, with Samuel L. Jackson, what do you expect? The man. So, and getting into the cast, obviously, just mentioned Samuel L. Jackson. You've got Pam Grier as the titular character, Jackie Brown. You've got Robert Forster as Max Cherry, the bail bondsman. You've got a cameo appearance by Chris Rock as Beaumont Livingston. You've got Bridget Fonda as Melanie, the beach bunny. And you've got a 90s Michael Keaton. And man, his character, Ray, the ATF agent, very solid across the board. I can't recall the name of the police officer that's working with Ray off the top of my head, but Michael Keaton, just on his own, he brings it. He absolutely positive. Oh, and cannot leave out one other actor, even though I do not care for his political position, Mr. Robert De Niro as Louis Gara. And we'll get into Lewis here in a little bit, but really, really cool character, I have to admit. So this is obviously a heist movie in a way, but it's told from a very unconventional perspective because you've got a heist, but the cops are in on, or the law enforcement is in on the heist because they know what's going on. Because we can go ahead and jump into some of the characters, specifically Samuel Jackson's Ordell Roby, who is a one-time drug dealer, now a arms dealer, but not as bright as he may think himself to be. Ace, your thoughts on Ordell?
I think that's a very fair assessment of he's not as smart as he leads on, much like most antagonists of heist movies, where obviously they seem like they have all the best cards in the deck, but the
Mhm,
protagonist that we follow knows the game very well and knows how to bluff properly, and not only just him as an opponent, but the other opponents, like being the cops and so on and so forth. And
mhm,
I like the assessment that Bridget Fonda's character made about Samuel Jackson, because like how he's just kind of repeating what he hears on shows, like about in relation to the arms deal, like I was saying, like,
mhm.
every time, like, you see like, when them Hong Kong movies were coming out, every mother wanted those, 45s or whatever because they saw it and then I thought, "Yeah, that's sounds like something that people would do. Pick choose a gun because they saw it in the show," but a lot of the stuff he's saying about now, I would choose this 9 millimeter or whatever instead. Like, I don't know guns, but my cousin could probably say whether or not that's accurate or not. But Tarantino probably did his
Yeah.
homework, so it sounded authentic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're obviously not meant to like Ordell Roby, and quite frankly, of some of the characters that Tarantino has written in the past. I mean, the last couple of movies that we've reviewed with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, obviously, there are no characters that you necessarily hate. Ordell, I think, is one of the first times Quentin wrote a character that we're actually supposed to hate. Because honestly, if I saw this guy in public, even if he was armed, I'd probably be armed too. I'd punch him right in the damn his damn soul patch mini beard or whatever and knock out a few teeth because man, he is a blowhard. What an ass.
You kinda wanna grab him by that braid thing and just pull.
Yeah, just pull as hard as you freaking can. Yeah, really. Pull and have a gun in the other hand and stick the gun underneath his chin and say, "Okay, listen here, you slack-jawed idiot. You are not as slick as you think you are. You are actually dumb as bricks. So here's how things are gonna go down." Now, I will say Pam Grier's character, Jackie Brown, I I have seen my fair share of Pam Grier movies. Now, granted, some of them have been smaller parts and so on. I've never seen any of the movies that she did probably back in the 60s and so on, some of the black exploitation films and what have you. But she played this character very, very, very well. So I don't really have any marks to give against her performance. Her She almost is like a prototype in a manner of speaking for The Bride, which we'll get to next month or anything.
Okay.
And of course, being Kill Bill volumes 1 and 2. But Pam Grier's performance, it's got a lot of layers to it. She's tough, but she's also soft. She's also humorous. She's also no nonsense. She's got a lot of layers to her, and I really enjoyed how Tarantino wrote Jackie Brown's character. Ace, your thoughts on her?
Well, I've known the name Pam Grier, but to my knowledge, I've not seen her in any other movies prior, but I thought she
Mhm,
was great. Like, you feel for her even though you do get catch it early on that, oh, she's not just an innocent victim. She's kind of been in on this racket for a little bit, but
mhm.
then when she realizes she's being thrown under the bus, she's like, okay, I gotta look out for my neck now. And you sympathize with her about it, especially when you hear
Yeah,
her story. And
yeah.
her performance comes off like when I'm terrible with remembering his name, but Samuel Jackson's character, when he goes to her apartment
Ordell,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
Ordell, thank you. And you think, "Oh, I see where this is going." She don't put up with none of it. She's prepared for him, and it comes off with
mhm.
as an actual strong character,
Oh,
not
yeah.
not the this might cause people to roll their eyes, but not that hot modern depiction of a strong independent woman. Like she's a strong character.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Tarantino knows how to write his characters well, and he doesn't go for any one particular trope or any one performance in terms of the characters that he writes. You might think, "Oh crap, she's about to buy it," but then she gets a leg up on Ordell, and she's got a piece of her own. She's like, no, you ain't coming in here and strangling me or shooting me. Nuh, that ain't happening. Not in my place. Screw that." And she
And
actually gets she
oh,
gets the one up on him.
points
And
a piece of his balls.
yeah, and she's like, "I will blast him off. I am not afraid to." And I like how that scene is mirrored at the end, where he's the one that turns off the lights. She's the one keeps turning the lights back on. But at the end of the movie, when she's lured him to Max Cherry's bail's bail bondsman's office, she's the one in control here. She's the one with all the cards. He's walking in blind. And I love that juxtaposition because Ordell walks in, thinks he's got all the cards, but at the end of the movie, in the same in the final confrontation, she's the one with all the cards. So that for me was a great play on expectations. It did subvert in a good way my expectations. So, um, I think, and you mentioned this a few minutes ago as well, Ace. The soundtrack and the soundtrack very much plays a strong role in this movie. It's kind of the way that Max gets to understand Jackie and who he is because he comes over to her apartment the morning after she gets out of he gets her out of jail, and they're sitting there talking, and she's like, "Do you want some coffee?" She's very accommodating. She's very friendly. She's not trying to be a jerk about it. And she even knows up. Yeah, I took your gun. I did it. I was like, she's like, I'm not gonna try and BS you. She's like, you're my bail bondsman. You're pretty much, in a manner of speaking, my parole officer. So I'm not gonna screw you over. She's like, if you want the gun back, and he's like, no. If you want to keep the gun, if it makes you feel better, I won't say anything as long as you won't. So I love that whole interaction between Max and Jackie. And what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a great scene, and not to get too off on a tangent from the characters, but I like how the overall story. I mean, the
Mhm.
movie, the entire plot. Like you said, it's a heist movie, and
Mhm.
it plays into that trope that, as Chuck Dixon has said in his Ask Chuck videos, good heist movie is there's a plan, and it doesn't like you think, oh, it's going to go all right. It doesn't go entirely according to plan. There's always some snag in the plan that causes
Mhm.
things to go wrong that they have to fix in order to get away with it. You think, oh, they got away. No, no, no. There's that one of them left the gun behind or a piece of evidence or something like that. And this movie has that aspect, but also I could even see, like, obviously because of Pam Grier's casting and the soundtrack, it's definitely paying tribute to a lot of that 70s black exploitation and 60s black exploitation as well. And I know it was based on a book that was called Red Punch, I believe, by uh,
Elmore
Elmore
Leonard.
Leonard. Elmore Leonard,
Yeah.
thank you. And
Mhm.
that the book was written in the 90s, and I guess it took place in the 90s, but also I felt like it had elements of playing into paying tribute to film noir, especially with like how she's
Mhm.
talking to her bail bond guy, like he's a parole officer, like he's a cop or something like that. That's what it reminded me of, like a private detective or a
Mhm.
bystander talking to a police officer, like that type of interaction, like in an old Bogart movie where the
Mhm.
ordinary, the everyday ordinary becomes the unordinary, and they have to kind
Mhm.
of get themselves out of the mess. And it also some elements of the Sting are in there, I would say. with
I would agree with the double
with
cross and everything. Yeah,
ex-
definitely. Yeah,
exactly.
because I remember the Sting very well. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I do remember there's certain elements of the Sting in there with Paul Newman, if I remember correctly.
And Robert
But
Redford.
Robert Redford, yeah, I sometimes get those two crossed up. Two great
It's all
actors, in
good.
my opinion.
And Robert
But
Shaw, can't forget him.
no, can't forget Robert Shaw. No, he didn't just do Jaws. But yeah, as you mentioned, this does play into a lot of the different tropes of the highest genre movie. And but with Quentin Tarantino, he knows how to turn it on its head ever so much to make it ever so more interesting. And it isn't just the characters that draw you in, it's the scheme itself and how the law enforcement, the ATF primarily, and the ATF agent played by Michael Keaton, Ray, uh, is actually in on the whole thing. But, and we'll get to Mr. Keaton's performance here in a little bit because he was great in this. He really was. He was. And of course Robert Forster as Max Cherry, the bail bondsman, which we just mentioned a minute ago. He was great in this too. There's only one other movie I've ever seen him in, and it's kind of a shame that I've only ever seen two movies and everything. The other one, of course, was the old. It's a very cult classic, Disney cult classic film called The Black Hole, where he played the captain of the ship, the Palomino.
I need to see that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's an old one. It's a very cult classic and everything. Disney movie. One of my
Yeah,
personal favorites, honestly. I
yeah,
love it.
I know it's.
I
I know it's. Sorry,
no, go ahead, Ace. You're fine.
I was just saying I know its reputation because either he did concept art for it or he did the comic adaptation for Jack Kirby. That's all I was going to say.
I think it was Jack Kirby. They were going to do a comic for it. I might be off on that, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah,
But I knew they did a comic book continuation
yeah.
of the story from the movie after the survivors, the survivors of the Palomino and the robot Vincent make it through the black hole to the other planet. But Robert Forster as Max, he's very no nonsense, but he's not your atypical bail bondsman. He's not a hard ass. He probably can be if he wants to be, but he realizes who he's working with in this case, with Jackie Brown specifically, and he realizes this is a woman that's trying to get out of a bind, and he's willing to help her.
Hmm.
And he, the interesting thing is, as I mentioned before, when he's there in her apartment and she puts on the record and she's like, "I've spent too much time building this record collection." She's like, "I don't want to start all over again with CDs and everything." And I kind of respect that of her because I have a lot of DVDs. Me and Mammoth Master have a lot of DVDs, and honestly, we have upgraded a few to 4K or Blu-ray, but the majority we will probably never upgrade because one, they'll probably never do them, or we're just happy with what we've got already. And I kind of linked in to Jackie Brown's character on that level. She's a woman who's had a hard life, a difficult life. Yeah, she's done some questionable things, but she never hurt anybody. So, in that frame of mind, I can empathize with her and I can even side with her. She's wanting to get out of this whole mess with this guy, with this wannabe arms dealer, Ordell, and she just wants to have a nice, quiet life somewhere. And Max becomes sweet on her, and it's through music and through her attitude and how they interact with one another that he starts to have feelings for her. And you can tell that Max has feelings for her. So there is a element of a love story here, but it's a very unconventional love story because she does ask him at the end of the movie, if you remember, why don't you just come with me? Why stay here? Why keep doing this? She's like, I've got enough. She's like, I've got $500,000. I'm leaving the country. Poof, I'm out of here. And he
Yeah.
almost leaves. So What did you think of that particular aspect of the story, Ace? The love story between Max and Jackie.
Well, I definitely agree. It's there. It's just very subtle, but and you could. He even says to her how he was thinking about leaving the bail bonds business, and he said, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Thursday." And she's like, "That was the night you got me out of jail and whatnot." And it was a subtler way of kind of saying that. Oh, like the first time I saw you, I wanted out, and so
Mm-hmm.
forth, without being like obviously sad because Tarantino would never do sappy.
No, he would never do Sappy, but Forrester's performance as Max has got a lot of layers to it. Because yeah, he's in the bail bondsman business, so he's expected to be kind of a no nonsense, kind of hard boiled, like in terms of a film noir character. So that aspect of him, you get a little bit of old school bogey Sam Spade from the Maltese Falcon, kind of a aesthetic from him in terms of that. But in this case, Sam Spade would have left, or a version of Sam Spade that would have left with the girl. But he ends up staying, but you almost feel sad because the last shot of the movie, she's in the car, she's listening to that one song across 110th Street, and you can almost see some of the sadness in her face because she's like, damn, I really want him to come with me. She's like, I could almost turn around and he'd probably get in the car, and he almost hangs up the phone on the woman or anything and says, can I call you back in like half an hour or whatever? But by that point, she's already gone.
Mm-hmm.
So um in terms of that particular moment and everything, Ace, what were your thoughts?
Well, I kind of thought to myself, wait, is he gonna go? Like when he said, can I call back in a half hour? But I thought a half hour, what is he gonna do? But then again, it would sound like a nice cover him. Like I need to make some phone calls to see about your case, but it's because he's thinking to himself, should I go with her or not? But then again, she's
Mm-hmm.
basically gone by the time, and he already kind of I wouldn't say he rebuffed or spurned her. It's just he realizes, no, I can't, so on and so forth. And like you mentioned, Bogey and Maltese Falcon, and it kind of reminded me just a little bit to another Bogey movie that you did a retro rewind of, Casablanca. Like
Yeah, I actually did. I did those two movies together. I did Casablanca and Maltese Falcon together as a
yeah,
double feature. Yeah.
yeah, which I'm
Um,
sorry I missed because I love both those movies.
no problem, bud. Go check it out. That goes for the
Oh, I
rest of
will.
everybody else that's watching this. Go check out that review. That was a fun one. I won't lie, because I love those movies. I love Bogart. If you're a film fan, especially a fan of older movies, black and white movies from the 1930s and 40s and 50s, if you do not like Bogey, there is something wrong with your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, just to kind of pull it back to where we're at right now, I get the impression that Tarantino probably drew just a little bit of inspiration from maybe some of Bogart's performances, some of the other characters, to kind of get a framework for Max Cherry, the character of Max Cherry, but not in total, obviously. But I will say there is a parallel here in a manner of speaking, because you have a bail bondsman who wants out of the business in this movie, which is based on an Elmore Leonard novel, and you have another character in another movie based on an Elmore Leonard novel, which is, of course, Get Shorty, but it's a loan shark or a Shylock played by John Travolta. And in this case, he doesn't want to be a loan shark anymore. He wants to go into the movie business instead. And that's where the similarities end, because obviously Chili Palmer, Travolta's character, does leave the life as a loan shark or a Shylock and goes into movie business, but Max stays in the business as a bail bondsman. So a
So,
little bit of a parallel, little bit of a parallel there.
It's like poetry, they
Yeah,
rhyme.
nice reference, Lucas. Yep, I get it. I get it. I most imagine most people would get it if they're a fan of Lucas. Let's get into Mr. De Niro's character, Louis Gara. The recently released ex-con / bank robber. And of course, Ordell's one of many main squeezes, Melanie, played by Bridget Fonda, the Beach Bunny. The pothead Beach Bunny, let's put it that way.
But Bridget Fonda, she was fine, but I've always had a weakness for blondes.
Fair enough. There's only like one or two other movies I've ever seen her in. This is one of them. The other one, of course, being Lake Placid. And I love Lake Placid.
Yeah, for me, Lake Placid and Monkey Bone.
I have never seen Monkey Bone. But I know Brendan Fraser's in it. But I've never seen it.
Worth a watch once. It's a cult movie, but it's kind of weird and a little perverted.
That's what I've heard.
Jokes.
I've heard that it's kind of off the wall. Kind of has a similar vibe to Cool World with Kim Basinger and Gabriel Byrne and Brad Pitt.
Essentially, but with special effects instead of animation, like not just puppets, but animatronics and stop motion, but so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, and I get that. The dynamic between Melanie and Ordell and Lewis, let me be honest, none of them have a fully functional brain between the three of them.
No.
Ordell is not as smart as he thinks. Melanie is a pothead and a beach bunny. And Lewis is a once really well-respected bank robber, but he has lost his step with age. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the three of them, anytime they share a screen, it is somewhat hysterical, but also somewhat unnerving, just how dysfunctional the three of them are together.
Pretty much.
So, Ace, your thoughts on Lewis and Melanie, or all three of them, if you want. I know we discussed Ordell a little bit, but go ahead.
Well, I agree that they're kind of unnerving together, like their opening scene together in the apartment, and the phone's ringing, and he's like, woman, you gonna get that and whatnot, and just like badgering at her, and I just think, my God, he's an abusive guy, and towards her and so forth. And then later on, obviously, her and Lewis were kind of just casually talking about some of the pictures she has in the apartment, and then she asks if he wants to do it, and you just think, oh God, he's gonna get himself killed by Ordell, and but then you realize, oh no, they're not together, but she's just a chick he uses. He's basically like a minor henchwoman he couldn't really give a crap about, and he even says how dumb she is. But so I get the unnerving part.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the opening scene with the three of them in the apartment, you just want to knock him down and just maybe not curb stomping, but stomp a mud hole in him and walk it dry. I'm like, I don't care how much of a pothead she is, and I don't care how much of a pain in the ass she is. You do not talk to a woman that way. That's her place. That's her place. You are a freaking guest.
Yeah, not to mention that not really related to the characters. I thought, really, Tarantino, you had to do the foot shot once again.
Yeah, I know. He has a thing for feet. It's his thing.
It just bothers me. Feet I don't see the appeal. It's weird.
And you know what?
BDSM makes more sense than feet.
Manner speaking, yes, it does very much so. Um, I think one of the standout scenes between Lewis and Melanie is obviously during the heist itself when Jackie's in the changing room in the department store in the mall. And Lewis is not in control whatsoever. He
They
can't keep
relate.
a hold of her. She's being flighty as all hell. And she literally just walks out and tries to just get the hell away from him. And I can't necessarily say I blame her. And then he ends up shooting her because she's like, well, do you remember where the damn car's at? Do you? Do you remember where the car's at? Is it over here? Is it over there? And he shoots her and kills her.
Well,
It's not her fault. You're too stupid to remember where you parked.
in fairness, she was antagonizing. He says, "You say one more word, and I'll kill you." And she's like, "Okay, dude, Lewis." And he fires. So he warned her in his own psychotic way, but at the same
Yeah,
time, still uncalled for.
very uncalled for. And then, of course, a little while later, or he picks up Ordell because everything went pear shaped with Ordell as well. And I think if I remember correctly, and he opens up the shopping bag and there's money in there, but then there's nothing but freaking books. Because, of course, Jackie and Max formulated their own scheme and it actually worked better than the other. The only thing that sucked is he let himself be seen by Lewis and, mainly by Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Ordell figures out, oh, she must have given the money to Max. That's the only screw up really that Max made in this whole scheme.
Yeah, I have a screw up in a heist, and I thought a stupid quote from a movie, like when Lewis killed Melanie. I thought a line from the movie Heather's like, "Why'd you have to go and kill a nice piece of snatch?" or whatever that line
Yeah,
was. Stupid,
and
I know.
Ordell. No, it's not stupid. It's funny. It sounds like something Tarantino would write. So it works.
I maybe.
Um, the one thing one of the other things I'll comment on, um, Ordell has got like 3 or 4 women that he is bouncing around with. One is obviously not completely all there, and another one is a lounge singer, I guess, of some sort. Sharonda, I think is her name.
Yeah, and I just have to quickly say that moment where Lewis is in her apartment, she's like basically singing along to that song by the Supremes. I just thought that is the
Mhm,
one song that does not work in this movie. I get the purpose for that scene, but I just
mhm.
can't. I just can't vibe off that song.
And I do get that, believe me.
Yeah,
I do understand.
and believe me, I got nothing against old R&B soul music. I like some of it, but that song, no.
Not in this movie, no, it doesn't jive well, yeah. I think the other aspect of the dynamic between Lewis and Melanie and Ordell is she doesn't realize that she is being used by Ordell, or if she does, she doesn't care because she just wants to get high and watch TV. She says it perfectly and everything herself, and everything. She's like, not unless you just want to get high and watch TV. She's like, I'm perfectly happy with the life I have. And she's like, I'm not running around trying to pretend to be a wannabe arms dealer. I'm just a beach bunny and a piehead. And she's like, I'm happy. For some
Like
people,
most
that's
people
all
that
they
live
want.
in California.
Hmm.
Like most people that live in California.
Yeah, pretty much.
Although that is
So,
the mindset of a lot of late teens, early 20 people.
Yes. Very, very true. I just want to get high and go to the beach.
Mine was, I just want to drink and play video games and guitar.
Mine didn't involve alcohol or booze or, well, alcohol or drugs. I just wanted to play video games and eat pizza.
Pizza as well. I forgot
Pizza.
to include pizza.
It's okay. I I have to admit, there is a simplicity to Melanie's life and her whole raison d'etre, her reason for being, that is very appealing. But at the same time, you eventually have to grow up. You really do. You eventually have to grow up. Or do you?
Only on the outside. That's my motto.
Yes. Um, I think the one character we haven't really touched upon as of yet is, of course, Michael Keaton's character, Ray. And you honestly forget that Michael Keaton is in this movie because his performance is so unassuming. I don't know why he didn't do more movies with current Tarantino because he was great in this. He was absolutely great in this as Ray, the ATF agent. It's a shame he
Mm,
didn't do. To the best of my knowledge, this is the only time Keaton did a Tarantino movie because obviously he wasn't in Pulp Fiction. He wasn't in Inglorious Bastards. He wasn't in either one of the Grindhouse movies. Um, he wasn't in Django Unchained, and
Not Kill Bill 1 or 2.
no, he wasn't in Kill Bill either, and he wasn't in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, at least as far as I know. But I think he will have worked really well in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But this is the only time Keaton ever worked with Tarantino. But his role was actually his part was actually really good and everything. Max almost comes off as a bungler, but at the same time, he doesn't. That for me was the impressive thing. He was by no means a bungler. He was very, very together. He knew what he was
Mhm.
doing. He knew how to play everybody. He knew everybody's angle, relatively speaking. And of course, in the end, he's the one that takes out Ordell.
Yep.
I mean, every scene he's in, he seems very much in control, even though he doesn't seem like he's necessarily in control. That, for me, was the interesting aspect of Keaton's character, the ATF agent. So,
Oh,
Ace,
you.
your thoughts?
Oh, sorry. You were saying Max for a second. Michael Keane's character is Ray.
Ray. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
Ray.
getting confused for a second, but it's okay.
Sorry,
It's
no, Ray.
clarified now. Yeah.
Keaton's character, Ray, not Max. Ray.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he comes off as like, he is a cop trying to do his job, and you obviously are frustrated with him and the other cop giving a hard time to Jackie Brown, but you do remember these are guys who are trying to do their job and hunt down criminals and so on and so forth. And yeah, it is kind of a shame that Keaton didn't do any more movies with Tarantino. So I wonder if maybe Tarantino just thought, well, I can't think of anything that'd be suitable for him, or maybe he just have thought, well, we didn't work best together as I would have liked, or maybe Keaton saw some of his materials like, nah, I just don't want to, or something along those lines. And like a minor thing about Ray, I liked, and there was this one scene where he comes into the office late, and but Jackie's talking to his partner or whatever, and he's wearing
yeah,
this leather biker jacket. I used to have that same jacket when I was in high school, trying
nice.
to look like a badass.
And you kind of get the impression maybe that was Ray's intention as well, trying to look a little more tougher than he actually is, because you think ATF, you think big burly guys, not slight like 5'6", 5'7" at the most, short guys that are somewhat balding.
Hmm.
But yet Keaton carries off this role very impressively. And I have to say, he is one of the highlight performances, for me at least, or anything in this movie. I'd have to say one of the other highlight performances is, of course, Robert Forster as Max. Don't get me wrong, there's not a bad performance in here. I mean, but Michael Keaton, Jack, and Pam Grier and Robert Forster, those three for me were the three standout performances in this movie. The other thing I'll comment on in terms of one of the scenes that involve Max is actually in the aftermath of the heist. And she's telling him, she's shooting absolutely straight with him, at least, well, as far as he's concerned. She's like, I don't have the money. I don't know where the money is at. As far as I know, Ordell's got it, or something to that effect. He's like, well, you better hope we get him before he gets you. And obviously, in the end, well, he does end up getting Ordell, because that's really the one they're after. Jackie's just a means to an end in a lot of ways. Yeah, they'll put her away if they have to, but the one they're wanting is Ordell.
And like they said, they don't care about the money. They just want to get him on the arms charges. But if they can't, catch him in the act of dealing with guns, they can get him on those murder charges after a couple characters are killed off towards after the heist.
Well, one character that obviously gets killed is Melanie, but it's Lewis that pulls the trigger there. But obviously, Ordell kills Lewis. But also at the beginning of the movie, you remember, we have a cameo by Chris Rock as the character of Beaumont Livingston.
Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker. I meant Chris Tucker, not Chris Rock. Chris Tucker, yeah. Sometimes the voices sound so similar. Chris Tucker, yeah.
It's all right. I barely recognized him, but he's not doing the typical, what people think of as the typical Chris Tucker voice performance. And I just thought, hey, what do you know? He actually can do some other types of roles people would not suspect, even if it was a minor role. And for the record, I haven't seen all of his movies. I've not watched all of the Rush Hour movies, so I can't be one to comment fairly on those.
All three of them are really entertaining. They're funny as hell. I have to say, of the three, my favorite has to be the third one, but I love them all. I really do.
I do love me some Jackie Chan, so I'll give it a watch, even if it's not a movie he directed.
They're still great movies. They really are. They are really entertaining. The two of them have great chemistry together. They work really well together. The other Chris Tucker movie, and this is one you probably know because I love this movie to death. It's another mid to late 90s movie, is of course Fifth Element. I love that movie. You have no idea how much I love that movie. I love that movie so much I got it on 4K, even though I had on 2-disc DVD special edition. I was like, nope, I've got to have that sucker in 4K.
Took me a couple of viewings to appreciate it. I thought, why does everything look so plastic in the future? But then when I realized the art was based on Mobius's art, I thought, oh, really? Now I see it.
Even before then, the cast alone: Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, Ian Holm, Chris Tucker, Chris Tucker. I'm gonna say Chris Tucker. And of course, one of the greatest movie villains of all time, Mr. Gary Oldman as Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg. My favorite, Zorg. Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg.
You're a monster, Zorg. I know.
No. Go away. I can do that whole monologue I can do practically that whole damn monologue from the scene with the cases and the gun. I can do that whole damn monologue. I actually did it and everything first time I ever reviewed that movie back when I first started the channel. I'll tell you what I like. A killer. A dyed in the wool killer. Cold-blooded, clean, methodical, and thorough. A real killer, when we picked up the ZF-1, will have asked about the little red button on the bottom of the gun. Kaboom! Bring me Bring me the priest. Told you I love that movie.
Yeah, I wish I could recite that one.
Let me explain to you. 4 stones, 4 crates. 0 stones, 0 crates. Pack up everything. We're leaving. We're getting out of here. Told you. I love that damn movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Jackie Brown. Chris Tucker in this, he is really the linchpin of the whole thing because he's the one that gives up Jackie. If he doesn't give up Jackie, nothing else happens. And then you have that long, drawn out scene between Beaumont and Ordell. And what does Ordell do? Drives that poor sucker into the middle of the field, no further than a block away from his own damn apartment, opens the trunk and shoots him twice. What an asshole. That for me right there is like, you killed Chris Tucker, you jackwagon. You deserve to die. What happens?
Yeah,
He dies.
and what I found funny is he said 10 minutes in here. It's like 10 minutes, and then like not even 2 minutes later, opens the trunk. I thought, man, you could have at least made him wait a little bit to have enjoy his last moments if even if he's not knowing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. Now, talk about a subversion of expectations. You expect something, you expect this whole scene between Ordell and these, I think it was it Koreans? Koreans or
Yeah,
Chinese?
Koreans.
Koreans or anything. And what does he do? Drives him to the middle of a damn field just a block away from his home and shoots him. Tarantino knows how to subvert your expectations and do it right. Unlike a certain hack named Johnson. Sorry.
Hmm.
Sorry. It sometimes gets a little dusty in here.
Man, I'm telling you, man, invest in an inhaler.
Don't have to anymore, thankfully, but yeah, I get you. So, what scene in particular stood out for you, Ace? If there is one that we haven't discussed already.
What scene in particular?
Or
That is
scenes, even.
that is a tough one. Probably when she is, going through the heist and she's like rushing to put the money in her bag and then gives a little on top, like gives the dummy one to Melanie. She has one thing on top. She's like, "Here's a cherry on top for you, Melanie," and so forth. And then after she packs up the real money, she then tries to rush out the store. Almost forgets to get her change and so forth, and then is looking for Ray and whatnot. And then she has to shout his name. I thought, well, you're gonna blow your cover, or you're gonna blow it, man. Like calling out for Ray like that, but like that kind of had me a little like on close to the edge of my seat.
Yeah, really, me too. I'd have to say it's not even that action-packed of a scene or anything. It's a scene between Jackie and Ray in the car right before they go through with the heist. And he's marking all the bills. This is the actual transfer. This is not the dummy one. This is the one for real. And he's like, we will have our eye on you the whole damn time. You realize this? She's like, yeah, I know. She's like, I get it. And even though he thinks he's in control, she's the one that's playing it very low key, that she's in fact the one that's actually in control. Because that scene had some really good tension but in it. It had a good pacing in terms of the dialogue and so on. The other scene I will say is definitely the apartment scene between Max and Jackie. Everything after she gets out of prison. and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just talking and everything, and he's like, I can help you explore your options about how you can get out of this fix. So that scene right there, those two scenes right there, two of my favorites out of the whole movie. So
Yeah, and it's kind of a very short minor scene, and it's kind of a nostalgic one where Max is in the music store and he's picking out a cassettes and he's getting a Delphonics cassette, and I just see him walking through and that layout. I thought, oh man, when people still bought physical media, there's cassettes everywhere, there's CDs. I thought, God, I miss the '90s, and especially in that mall. I think to myself, I remember when malls were that active, and like
mm-hmm.
like the last like pre-pandemic was the last time I saw activity in a mall, but this was when I still lived in Ohio. And
Mm-hmm.
after the pandemic, where I moved, the one we have, I don't go to regularly because I once in a while I just need a new shirt or a new book or something. And it's not that active, and a lot of shutdown stores thought, "My God!" I think to think these were once the epicenters of interaction for people and whatnot to gather and so forth. And this
I
mall kind of reminded me of Kevin Smith's second movie, Mallrats.
I love that movie. Yes, I will wholeheartedly agree with you. Dang it, now I gotta watch Mallrats. You mentioned it, I have to watch it now. It's either
Maybe
Mallrats or Fifth Element.
maybe we'll have to do a retro review of some Kevin Smith movies in the future. Oop, save that for
Um,
later.
I hate to say it, but I actually did that last year for my birthday.
Oh, you did. That's right. Oh God, Oy.
Sorry.
It's all good. I gotta stop drinking.
Yes. Yes, you do. So, well, let's give this a rank. Anything? And okay, of the three we have reviewed so far, with Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, where would you rank Jackie Brown of those three?
Mm, well, I would say personally, I'd put it at a number two spot underneath Pulp Fiction because
Hmm.
I'm not trying to pick on Reservoir Dogs because I know it was Tarantino's first movie effort, and
Hmm.
and I don't want to say like, oh, it shows and whatnot, because it really doesn't to
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
sensibilities. But I think Jackie Brown's like when he was he's figured out what works and what doesn't. He's trying to experiment a little bit without going too out there or too distant from himself. And it's a nice product that he gave us,
Yeah, I'm kind of the
and
same mind. Go ahead.
and just he's not necessarily repeating the same heist thing from Reservoir Dogs, but it's
Hmm.
kind of a movie you have to think about while still paying tribute to like other like different, like I said, like film noir, black exploitation, things like that. And even
Hmm.
like one thing I want to say before I forget about the opening with Jackie Brown. Obviously, he's paying tribute to The Graduate with that long take on
Hmm.
moving floor in the airport.
Yeah, definitely. That one, I caught that myself, and I was like, yeah, I see what you're doing, Quentin, and I dig it.
Mm. That's the
I'm of
only
the
thing I
same
can
mind.
notice.
I'm of the same mind as you. It's gonna be so of the three so far we've done, it's gonna be Pulp Fiction, then this one. Not that I dislike by any degree Reservoir Dogs. I love Reservoir Dogs, but yeah, Jackie Brown. I'm gonna have to definitely give it another watch sometime. But this is one that I'm definitely gonna watch more often, at least once or twice a year, because it is that good. It is that enjoyable, and I don't know what I may have missed. So, but yeah, I'm in I am in full agreement with you. So, well, everybody, I think that's going to be the review for today. I hope you all enjoyed me and Ace's discussion on it. Obviously, make sure you, as always, smash that like button. You leave your comments with anything me and Ace may have brought up with Jackie Brown. Have you seen it? If you have, did you enjoy it? Where do you rank it with Tarantino's work, his filmography? And I'm talking his full filmography, not just the three we've done so far. Do want to let you all know that we will be back next month with another Tarantino podcast. We'll be doing episode 4. We will be, of course, doing what I consider to be, in a lot of ways, his magnum opus, Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2. So be sure to keep your eye out for when that video gets uploaded, this one and everything as well. And of course, go check out some of the other playlists that I've done. I've been going at this since 2019, so I've got quite a catalog. So if Tarantino's not your thing, I'm sure there's something else I've done with my buddy Ace here, or several other people I've worked with over the years. Go check out my review of Fifth Element, even, and get shorty. So, but anyways, folks, you all have a great day or night wherever you're at. Have a great one. We will see you next time. And until next time, these are the ambassadors signing off.